And welcome to another episode of Back to Paranormal. And this is the show where we talk about ghosts and spirits and all mystical things, a lot of paranormal things that you wouldn't normally discuss in real life. And but we've done some wonderful shows. And I am Brian Mitchell, and my co-host here is...
I'm Marjorie. Hello.
Hi, Marjorie.
Hi,
and
handsome.
You're looking wonderful tonight.
Thank you.
Yes, always wonderful. You look great.
I love looking at you.
I love looking at you, my baby. There we go. Seal the deal there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I
Thank
like that
you.
too. Thank you. So anyway, we're actually doing this pretty late.
We are doing it late, and we're actually not really... We're taking just a slight veer from, like, paranormal.
Well,
slightly.
No, I think it is paranormal when you come down to it, because it's something that a lot of people don't know about. We kind of alluded to this on a previous show about how your thoughts and your emotions can actually be transferred to different things, like a plant. Right, because there are people who talk to their plants and stuff like that.
Healing, we've definitely discussed that.
Yeah, and today's show is about the hidden messages in water. And what that means is water is kind of a mystical substance. It is basically the lifeblood of this planet. We are, at birth, we're anywhere between 80 and 90% water.
As a fetus, you're 99% water.
There you go.
And then right after birth, you are transferred into 90% water.
90% water.
And then throughout most of your adulthood, you are roughly between 70 and 90.
Right.
And then if you expire from old age, your water weight is about 50%.
50%. So...
I love water.
I love water too.
I love water.
I love water too. And we have normally.
Yeah, we got a boop.
We got a boop. So tonight's mystery beverage.
Drum roll, please.
Yes, is the magical substance of water.
Spring water.
And we don't think of it like that. But here we're going to toast and boop.
Boop.
There we go. We're going to have a
That's
cup.
what I'm talking about.
And there we go.
Oh. That is good. What's the best water you ever tasted on Earth?
I
don't care if it's bottled or in a glass bottle or from out of the tap, whatever it is. What's the one that you like the taste of the most?
We went to Saratoga.
Yes, we did.
And we got it right from the spring.
Right from the spring.
And it was so good that you wanted to just take the spring with you.
I wanted to just keep going around the roundabout and pulling up.
And loading up bottles and bottles
and
and
bottles.
bottles.
And there were tons of people loading up on that water.
Yeah.
And, now that I have read this book...
Yeah, and what book are we talking about?
I'm so sorry. We are going to be talking about a very interesting study by a gentleman from Japan who has a doctorate in alternative medicine. His name is Masaru Emoto, and he is a person who studies water and the effects that water have on you and the effects that you have on it.
Yes.
And now that I've read this book... In Saratoga, Saratoga is actually not my favorite, but we don't have to get into that.
Well,
but it was delicious.
It was delicious.
I mean, it was like, a gift from God. But There's also a mineral water that comes out of a fresh spring, several of these locations of these fresh springs, and it has a very, very heavily mineral taste.
Right.
And I was bold enough, unlike some of us, to actually taste the water, and didn't really jazz me. I mean, no, it didn't make it down the gullet.
I think it was heavy iron, and it had a stench to it.
Very heavy iron.
Yeah.
It had a sulfuric.
Yeah.
It was kind of in the orange.
And that was also in Saratoga.
And apparently, it's one of the healing waters that are
Right.
available for you. But
So,
I didn't care for it. But now I feel really bad that I spat it out and said, "Ew, gross."
Yeah.
It was a couple years ago, so hopefully that water spring has recovered from my harsh insults.
I'm sure it has. The reason why we're talking about this, and we went back and forth saying, is this really paranormal? But I've said in other podcasts, water, air you can't see. Water is clear when it's really fresh and it's doesn't have minerals in it. It is basically clear. And these are two. If you're without air, of course, you're going to die, and if you're without water, you would never have been born. And you need water every day. So these are life. Basically the building blocks of life. If you don't have that stuff, then basically you are, you're dead.
It is. It's the basis of life on Earth.
And but the reason why we're doing this on the show is because water has been investigated not only by this author, but even prior to that, and other people have discussed this, that water, if there's things going on in the environment, even if it's not where that water is, it could be elsewhere, that water will somehow be affected, and it changes its structure. Even to the point of, if you're talking to the water or you're playing music, it reacts to the environment. So, and it even reacts to your emotions. That's what this is really all about. Now, we've talked about this on a previous show and kind of alluded to it, but we decided to do a show on this because we had some questions about it from people who've listened, and it just seemed like an important topic to cover. So, we're debating whether this is paranormal or not, but it's actually, it's part of the theme of the show is back to paranormal or back to normal.
And it's, putting the opening up to the possibility that things are real that you don't see.
Right.
And just because you don't see it or feel it or what have you, doesn't mean it's not there and it's not real.
Right.
And water is it's a conductor. It's a conductor of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And the world, the entire universe is made up of energy and vibrations. Everything has its own vibration. And we emit vibrations when we emit rage or envy or negativity or anger and hate, or when we emit love and gratitude and warmth and friendship and loyalty. And so that's why this study struck us as so amazing, or multiple studies, how the water in that vicinity of those vibrations reacts and how its crystalline structure behaves and what those crystals render in terms of their arrangement.
Yeah.
And so it's an interesting thing to discuss.
It's very interesting because what drew us to this was the fact that there have been experiments done where they talk to the water, or they put like a label around the actual water, and they'll put like love, and they will put and this was in Japanese.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Or yes, gratitude and love.
In several different languages.
Yes. And the label on there in whatever language it was, the water would react. And if it was love and gratitude, it was the most beautiful. They took pictures of the water in a crystal form. They would freeze it, and then they would put it under a microscope. And this stuff that was like love and appreciation was absolutely beautiful. It was like a...
Did you notice how so they said I love you in several different languages and thank you in several different languages. So you had, like Korean and Japanese, and the Japanese one,
Right.
arigato, was always so much more perfect than the English one.
Interesting. Well, maybe it's because of the people.
Even the Korean, right, the manner in which they're expressing it. The study was done in Japan.
Right.
And, kansanida and sarangheo, which are Korean, these beautiful, beautiful, perfect floral patterns.
Yeah.
But no, and then it shows the crystalline structure underneath the microscope of comments like "you fool" or
I hate you.
or I hate you, or you're ugly, or things like that. And it's like just a mess. It's and chaos.
The actual pictures, it's really ugly and disgusting looking, versus the love, gratitude, appreciation, thank you, stuff like that, where it was just more, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to look at, beautiful, and it changed all the time, but you could see the definite difference. Mm-hmm. And it would, and I think one was absolutely evil. It was like evil.
Satan, they used the word Satan.
Yeah, they used the word Satan, and basically the image was like a ring and a dark hole with, it was really kind of gross. So
one of the pictures that I thought was unbelievably interesting was how they took some water and they set it out at the oldest Shinto shrine in Japan.
Right.
And the crystalline structure, see that one?
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it comes back.
Almost like a...
it's the Japanese character for gratitude.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really, really something.
Yeah, this is a book written by... this is after the experiments, and basically they have pictures in the book. You can go and buy the book, because Marjorie ran out and bought the book.
It's a wonderful Masaru Emoto.
Yes, and
it's like 100 pages long, and it's full of amazing photographs. The photography is really fascinating.
Yeah. The other thing was holy water was also very beautiful. Mm-hmm. Water that was blessed. They did...
the spiritual waters of Lourdes in France.
Yes, also beautiful.
Because that water has been expressed with the gratitude for the Virgin Mary.
That's right. A lot of interesting things here. And it shows that basically what this is alluding to is that, and I've heard this before, that there's consciousness in everything. You have your subconscious and then you have your consciousness. And basically here, the water is reacting to the person, or the environment. Processed water is basically not happy water. It's a lot of the life is taken out of it because of the, it's basically been processed and stuff like that. All the different
processes, and then perhaps on top of that, the addition of chlorine.
Yes. Yeah, things to clean it.
But as I started to read this book, Brian, it was kind of like I was starting to come away from it thinking, well, now wait a minute, who is affecting whom here? Are the crystalline structures of these images, these beautiful snowflakes practically, are they influencing me? The whole thing started with how do we influence something that's highly conductive of vibrations.
That's a good point, right? Yeah.
And then as the study unfolds, as you start to read it, those results start to, in turn, affect you. So there's this big mirror thing going on.
I believe so. Yeah.
Between the.
I haven't been sleeping very well for the last couple of weeks.
I know.
And but I did a little experiment last night.
Oh.
And so normally Marjorie gets me a glass of water. She puts water by the bed, and so I had my glass of water, and I started talking to my water.
You did that last night?
Last night, yeah. And basically, it was saying, "I love you, water. I love you, water. You bring us joy and life," and saying all these wonderful things to my glass of water.
I noticed you had a couple sips. You don't normally do that before you fall asleep.
Don't, and I had a couple of sips before I went to bed, and I actually had a very restful sleep. And I went to sleep late last night, which
honey, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, so I did that little experiment, and I went to sleep, and I had a very peaceful rest. Got a good night's sleep. So it was surprising, because I'm telling you, for the last 2 weeks, I've been sleeping maybe 3 hours, and I wake up, and then I try to get back to sleep and stuff like that. But this was an interesting experiment, and I slept through, and I woke up in a good mood this morning, which normally I'm kind of a little grumpy sometimes.
No, you're not.
Well, no, I am, but anyway, but that's what I did, and it was, and some people will say, well, it's just because you had the positive thoughts before going to bed that this was going to work for you, and basically it kind of, it kept you through the night, and then you woke up in the morning, and because you ended up going to sleep with that thought, woke up with that thought.
That's so interesting. You know, when I have my nieces and nephews, and always when I put them down to bed and I tuck them in, I have always made sure to say, you will sleep a beautiful sleep, because you know how much you're loved.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the message I said. But I didn't realize I was sending that message to the water in their body.
Yeah. Well, I think
that's something.
With this, normally I go to sleep, and you give me a little rubby on my back, which is really nice. And and that always feels good, but I have not been sleeping the night away, and this was actually a wonderful thing.
I think it's a good thing.
I'm going to do it again tonight and see what happens.
I will talk to your water too when I bring it to you.
I think you should give it happy vibes.
I shall.
But anyway, going back to this book, I mean, all this stuff that I was doing last night to affect the water, this guy has been doing with like little petri dishes where they put a couple of droplets in.
Since what, 1999, he said?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And he was studying it for a while. So I don't know. How do you feel about this?
Well, I love it. I mean, I've always, when I take my first sip of water, I always say, thank you, Lord, because I was thirsty, and then I'm not anymore.
You're not anymore, yeah.
So I have that gratitude, but that's not the cart before the horse. This is the other way around. What I do think is interesting is how so many, if you speak to paranormal investigators and psychic mediums, in the book he writes that psychic mediums need to drink a lot more water. They've found in their line of work.
Right.
They need to consume a lot more water
because
they're channeling so many different energies.
Right.
In and out of their physical body.
Our guest last week was Jennifer Ann, psychic medium, and she was talking about how she, uses a lot of energy to do her readings. And when you're channeling, I don't know about you. I know, but me, if I'm working hard on something and just thinking hard about something, it's almost like you overheat. Mm-hmm. Have you felt that?
Oh, for sure.
You're very smart, and you've...
I'm also very sweaty.
You must be thinking all the time. Jeez. But yeah, no, I find when I get into into this serious
Deep
thought,
thought.
deep thought, that it's generating a lot of energy.
And your body
Never thought
requires
about
more.
that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, paranormal investigators, and they say that paranormal activity, spiritual activity, hauntings, what have you, are definitely proportionately stronger in their occurrences around places with water. And we did do a show recently where we were talking about this family that was living on this ancient marshland, ancient swamp.
Right.
With just primordial water that had been there for several 100,000 years.
That's right.
And stagnant water. And so a lot of the people that were called in to sort of treat this house and get it to a livable state, they said it's going to be an uphill battle for this family who owns this property because of that water, and not just that water, but that type of water.
Right.
Which I really thought was fascinating. Because if you think about a swamp, it's not flowing. It doesn't have oxygen, the flow patterns that are needed to get it circulating and keep it living. Oxygen is obviously an integral part of it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's 1/3.
When you go back through history and, even the Bible, religious practices, you have holy water, you have baptismal water, you have, most things that have, like St. Augustine, the fountain of youth, right? Which circles around water. And
in the Roman Orthodox Church, they put your wedding bands in a dish of water before you put them on.
Interesting.
Before you exchange them and put them on your hand. So always a very
there's a
part of ceremonial.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Please do.
No. There is a history of water being this mystical thing and a religious tool. And I think there's a lot more to it. They researchers, they allude to it in the book here, about water actually having some sort of intelligence. And so they say that if there is, let's say, a vaccine, okay, and they put a little bit of that in the water will actually, it has a memory. And it basically will take the properties of that, and also it will spread within the water, and it will have the intent. They've done experiments. Scientists, have done experiments with this and found that people who were injected with the water that came in contact with like a vaccine or whatever retained the properties of that vaccine. And so it was actually kind of expanding upon, the little bit in
However incrementally
tiny
the ratio of the vaccine.
That's right. Even to the point where it was almost, it was hard to detect, but the water picked up on it.
Trace bits of it. That's homeopathy.
That's amazing.
And they do he does discuss this in the book, where they talk about how Hippocrates figured how to rid people of lead poisoning. Mm-hmm. And that was by taking the tiniest bit of lead and putting it into the water that the patient would drink over a given period of time.
Right.
And that basically his methodical premise was like will cure like. Mm-hmm. Sort of two negatives equal a positive.
Right.
Which I think is very, very fascinating. That comes up several times in the book. And it kind of made me start to think of, there was this one time, it was like, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago. Mm-hmm. And I it was bad, bad, bad weather. Not raining, but just very bad, blustery.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted to go out and go for a walk. I needed to because I was in quite a state. I think I had lost my temper. And some people whom I love, they had made me feel very, very hurt and betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when I get mad as hell, I just...
Not me.
No, not you. And I said, I need to go out. I need to go out and walk.
Yeah.
And I was in a very angry. And as I was walking out, I looked up at all the trees, and we live very close to the water, and the waves were crashing, and the trees were blowing,
mm-hmm.
and the fog was rolling in. I mean, just like it looked almost like it was a movie set where they pump in the mist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it very much mirrored this atmospheric chaos that was going on around me. Very much mirrored what was going on inside me.
Right.
And for some reason, looking at the rage in the skies looming,
mm-hmm.
it started to normalize and equalize what was going on inside me.
Right.
And whether that was because by comparison, what is my piddly emotions compared to Mother Earth?
Yeah.
You know. But
it helped you put things in perspective.
Maybe it put things into perspective, or maybe it just took the pressure off of me to be the angry one.
Right.
I don't know. But it was very interesting. Or maybe it's just because I was outside getting fresh air. But I started off being very much on par with what was going on in the atmosphere around me,
mm-hmm.
and the water that was building out over, the bay and in the clouds and blowing up into the trees and all that. And then it started to really equalize what was going on inside. And I thought that was really fascinating. And I came back home a much happier human. Lucky you.
And this is something that, I've been pondering this all day. Maybe not all day, but, for an hour or two. And
that's good water.
It is good water. What is it? What type of water is it?
Spring water.
Oh, okay, good.
I like it.
I like spring water. The thing I realized, and nobody talks about this stuff because you get used to, you grow up and you drink water and you go to the beach and you're going to the mountains and you see a waterfall and waterfalls at the beginning of spring, and you get this smell that comes up, that first rainfall.
Yeah, that's the soil saying thank you.
Thank you for the rain. Yeah. I'm going to say right now, I said it to my glass last night, but I love water.
I think that's a good thing.
And it's not just, some people say, "Oh, water, I can't drink that." There are people that say that. They say, "I can't drink water. I have to have like a beer or a soda or something. I can't just drink water." It's like you probably never had fresh water. You probably had really, unpure water or something. But just, I might drive on Ocean Drive. There's Ocean Parkway over here by Jones Beach. And you see the waves coming up and you see the water, and it's all different colors at different times of day. Going into, just passing by something. We passed by something up in Westchester the other day where there was a little waterfall going down into like a little stream.
Yeah, reservoir.
Yeah. And just looking at water, mm-hmm. is so beautiful.
It's mood altering.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like music.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Listening to it, hearing the splashing and the water flowing, and it's just there's just something about it that just calls me. It's refreshing. It's beautiful. It's just amazing that we have this this thing called water.
Right.
And we don't ever think about any of that.
I do.
Well, I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people just go,
Well, see, this is what I think, because, we've had a couple discussions about formalized religion. We touched upon it with Jennifer Ann. We've definitely touched upon it with a couple of our good friends who have gone through their spiritual journey. And a lot of their spiritual journey in life has been, no offense, but kind of mucked up by certain things about whatever religion it is that they...
I think you mispronounced something there, but we're not supposed to say that on the air.
I don't use that language.
There you go.
And I always come back to this. Look, all of this stuff, and it's good if you have a faith. It's good if it's something that brings you joy and fulfillment and resolution and answers, and it brings the family together. If it's a good thing, when it starts making you feel bad about who you are or what you are, or question things or confusion, then it doesn't sound like it's a good thing. But all these religions originally all started out with a need in mankind to express gratitude.
Right.
It's where do I put these feelings that are in me that I don't have language to ascribe and define, and I don't have a structure. It's when you go out and you step out onto the water and you look at the big beautiful moon, and it's got its perfect reflection of light it just lands right at your feet. When I was a little girl, I used to say to my father, that's my moon path, and when I die, that I'm going to walk, and that's the path that will take me to heaven.
Oh, wow.
And he would say, he usually would correct me if I was wrong, because he was honest, but when I would say something like that, he would say, I think you're right.
Yeah.
So,
because it's so beautiful and so pure.
It's my moon path. But you're grappling with all of this gratitude and love that you have for your children, and if they're happy and healthy and playing, and that you have food, and that you have the ability to grow things, and that your loved ones are well, and that the seasons turn, and the sky is blue, and the trees are green, and things are growing, and there's crisp water that you can drink and keep you wholesome and happy and healthy and nourished. And so all of that became spirituality. To whom should we send our gratitude? And then it turned into, written down on paper with lines and boxes to check and rules and all that.
Right.
And then it became just a vehicle for a power grab.
And to separate people.
And to separate people, power,
but I think
control.
But most,
but water was always something for which one should be grateful, regardless of where they lived.
Right.
And
Well, when you see these pictures in this book, and these things are online, you could pull it up online. There's things on YouTube about this gentleman, Masaru Emoto, who he's not alive anymore. He died in 2014. He was 71.
Well, his final wish in the book was that he would turn to water and evaporate and go to Mars. So hopefully he's there. But yes, when you see the photographs from his study on the effects of bad vibrations and good vibrations on water, it really, really makes you think twice about how you treat, well, of course, water. And the gratitude that you should have for it, but also how we treat each other and the effect that has on human beings, humankind, at the molecular level.
Yeah. Well, I think in the broader scheme of things, right? The fact that you can talk to water and then have these beautiful, just saying great things, wonderful things, love and gratitude, and how those crystals form, that kind of says something in a deeper way, which is this is the way we should be toward everybody. And instead of people being divided, we're all, okay, we might be different colors, we might have different religions, we might have all these differences, but there's a lot of things there, like we are mostly made up of water, and the fact that there's a lot of things that really not separate us, really bring us together. And I think that's the deeper message here. Mm-hmm. And if we can grasp that, the fact that we should love and appreciate each other, just like the beautiful crystals in here, you're going to have a much more beautiful society. And that's what I really took from reading this book.
Yeah.
And the proof is in the water.
Yeah, it definitely is. There are people who are employed by governments to do community healing. Say a community or a small society was just devastated, like Maui, the wildfires, mm-hmm. or a mudslide, or an earthquake, or tsunami, or warfare, or warring tribes. And a lot of them have been very surprised to find that they weren't just there to heal the people, but that they've done studies on the local water, mm-hmm. and that the water was also affected by the trauma that was...
That's right.
That was committed to the residents of that particular area.
That's right.
Which I just thought was a very fascinating thing.
Yeah, but I think something that they did was in this book and some of the experiments was they took some water that it was from an area like that, which might have been a little bit polluted and stuff like that, and looked terrible under a microscope. But when they talked to the water and sent love and appreciation and all good things, the crystals changed. Even in this polluted water, they actually became, and affected by the the people and stuff, it actually became more beautiful. And the more they did it, the more beautiful it became. So, I mean, it was... very interesting things, but it says a lot to me about what you think and how you can affect the environment around you. We've talked about this before with a book we reviewed, which was E Squared, mm-hmm. Which is very, very much the same thing. It's your mind, your what you think and what you how you feel can affect people and things around you, and kind of change things to your liking. So, very interesting book. This is a New York Times bestseller. It was actually translated from the Japanese language. It's been basically published in a lot of different countries. All over the world. And I was really surprised you were able to find this book.
I was too.
Yeah, I mean, it was at Barnes & Noble here in Long Island.
He has written other books.
He has, but I think this is probably the most popular one, maybe. The Hidden Messages in Water. And it has a picture of a water crystal on the front. A beautiful water crystal, looks like a diamond. Really, really amazing. Masaru Emoto, and you could look that up. And there are other people who have done research on this, that they believe water has consciousness, and just really, really fascinating. But I think, the fact that this gentleman went through the trouble of photographing all this stuff and, freeze it and then take a picture of it. And some of the images that they got are pretty amazing, and they're in this book. So this book isn't too expensive, is it? It's not... It's moderately priced, right?
It was moderate.
And it's actually not a difficult read. It's an easy read, and it's just fascinating. So, mm-hmm. what would you give it on the Marjorie scale?
Oh, I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's a 5 out of 5 for me.
It's a 5 out of 5. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree too. Like I said, we talked about this on a previous episode, and I didn't have all my facts straight, but now we got the book, and we're able to set it straight for everybody. So
Next time you take a sip of your water, think about how you are treating your water and yourself and your loved ones.
Show gratitude, and they believe because water, air. It's basically, I believe in God, and I know you do too, and
I do.
And so it is basically. Some people feel that
a gift from God.
It is a gift from God, but the thing is that a lot of people feel that you can talk to water, and it's almost like communicating with the greater,
the cosmos,
yes,
Mother Nature,
and
it
God.
also has made me feel very, very bad. When I was a little girl going to school, we had a school nurse, and nobody liked her. Her name was Miss Giusti. Miss Giusti, I apologize for all those times that I would come into the nurse's office and say, I'm sick, I want to go home. Probably because I just didn't want to be around Allison Foster or Carolyn Davis at school. But you don't have to tell anybody that.
Okay, we won't tell anybody.
She would say every time, go get a drink of water. And which doesn't make it sound very appetizing, but that was what you would have to do. You go to the water fountain, and immediately, eureka!
Mm-hmm. Feel better.
100%. Ready to go to recess.
Yeah.
Play Blitzkrieg.
It's refreshing.
It was refreshing. And I also forgot, I beg your pardon.
Oh.
Last week's episode, I asked Jennifer Ann a question, and she sent us an answer. And if you were interested, I am going to, because I would like to read the answer.
So what is the question?
My question was,
yes,
can you sense when other people around you also have the gift of mediumship?
Oh, that's a good question.
Okay, and her response, yes, most of the time. I used to mentor people to help them fine-tune their abilities, but something happened that really disappointed me, and so I stopped. Oh, that's sad. Then she writes, there's a story, LOL. I can text you the story, or we can save it for a future interview if you like. Save it, Jennifer. Save it, Jennifer Ann, for a future interview, because we like.
There you go. We do. It's a good story, actually. It's a really good story.
Oh, you know? Oh, that's right.
I know a little.
I don't know nothing. Don't spoil it for me.
I'm not spoiling anything.
From her.
So anyway, okay, The Hidden Messages in Water. Great book, and I think it's paranormal because a lot of people don't think that water is, serves more of a purpose than just keeping us hydrated. There's more to it. And that's important, and that is normal, but we call it Back to Paranormal.
It is normal.
Okay,
well, listen, thank you for listening to us, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yes, I enjoyed this episode.
I did too.
I had a lot of fun.
I want to go back up to Saratoga and go around a loop-de-loop, fill up a big old glass bottle.
You just want to say gratitude to all that water up there.
I do. And maybe apologize to the iron water maybe a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway, all right, next week we'll have another great episode. We're really enjoying doing this show, and we have some great guests lined up for the future. So, you'll be listening to some of that. We're going to interview some ghost hunters.
We have some ghost hunters who would like to be on our show.
Yes, and they have some very unique stories and
some wonderful treats.
Wonderful treats, and we got some tricks up our sleeves as well. So, we'll see where that leads us. Anyway, check us out on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Back to Paranormal. Check that out. Check out all our episodes. We got this is episode number 17, which is 17? Yeah, it seems like we just started this 17 episodes ago. So there you go. We have a contest going on, which is basically write a little review, send us a picture of it. You could send it to comments@backtoparanormal.com. You could put in the byline contest and the grand prize is a Back to Paranormal mug. And so you have until August 31st, 2024 to do that. You have any comments about that?
So far I think we have one that's really taking the cake, but
yes,
we're open to listen to other.
We want to see some other ones.
I would really like to, please.
Yeah, just like I said, take a snapshot and just or a screenshot and just send it to us. Comments@backtoparanormal.com contest, and that should be it. I'm tired. I want to drink some water.
There's some right there for you, my love.
Yeah, I still got some left. Anyway, we'll see you all next week for another episode of Back to Paranormal. Good night, everybody.
Good night. God bless.
Take care.